Assalamu alaikum everybody. This is Jawahar Alvi again and Juhi. I'm a board certified behavior analyst, a BCBA. I'm also a learning behavioral specialist, a teacher, a special educator, clinical director for Basis International, and I have again the PRT, which is the Pocket Guide for Pivotal Response Training. Another thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about today was the science behind dealing with disruptive behaviors, which is a very important topic, and I wanted to talk to you about it. Now, how do you deal with disruptive behaviors? What I wanted to talk to you guys about today was um, everybody comes to me and talks to me about, oh, my child is having this behavior, and now my child is having that behavior. And what I keep on telling them is that when you are dealing with certain behaviors, you cannot just go and come up with, oh, we can just ignore the behavior. Oh, we can just, give a timeout to the child, or we can just, um, do a response blocking procedure. This is not how we reduce problematic behaviors or maladaptive behaviors, because when you talk about, hey, we can just ignore a behavior, it's not about ignoring the person, it is about ignoring the behavior. And as a person, or as parents, or as caretakers, we ignore the person. And, instead of knowing that why the behavior is happening, or what is the function of the behavior, we just go and put some interventions into place. Those interventions don't work. The reason that those interventions do not work is because we don't have the right function of the behavior. So once you have the right function of the behavior, you can come up with the right kind of intervention. And in our language, which is the behavior analytic term, we look into something that is called as the function of behavior. And once we look into the function of behavior, we come up with the treatment of the child, right? So, as per the book PRT, it says, to understand why PRT is naturally suited for treating disruptive behaviors, let's consider the case of a child who's being disruptive to avoid a difficult task. With PRT, the treatment for this behavior is to motivate the child to like the task so much that he or she does not want to avoid it. Think back on treatment of communication when we conducted a study on PRT, which was in one of the earlier chapters. We were talking about teaching words to the child first, so that when the child has words, he's able to use the words instead of having a behavior, which is something that we always do. We compared two conditions, and in one condition, we incorporated the motivational procedures, in which we are looking at how when a child is in a motivational condition, and in the other condition, we use a discrete trial. So in this condition, what we do is that we look at the results, and the results were showing that the motivational procedures were used, and the disruptive procedures either went away in the motivational process rather than the discrete trial and the more structured way. Because when we are using motivational procedures, where we are using all those motivational things as reinforcements contingently on when the child does not have behavior, they are more successful as compared to doing more structured setting and doing behavior reduction in those periods of time where you don't have the proper function of the behavior, right? So the common functions of behavior that we look at are escape, which is used to avoid a task. We look at attention, that a child is trying to gain the attention of you or of somebody else in the environment. We look at the child is trying to get an item or an activity, which is access to tangible items. And we are also looking at, okay, gaining an item, gaining attention, escaping a task, and avoiding a task. And we also look into physical, which is if there's any kind of a physical discomfort in a child. And we also look into the alone condition or the sensory condition. So these are all the things that we look into, and then we come up with what is the function of the behavior. How I like to explain the function of the behavior is that once you are sick, and you go to a doctor, and a doctor gives you medication for your stomach, because your stomach is unwell, so only that medicine is going to work. In the same condition, if you have a throat problem, your stomach medicine is never going to help, right? So in the same manner, if you have a throat ache and the doctor gives you stomach medicine, it's not going to help. In the same manner, if you are working with the functions of behavior and you have the wrong function at hand, at that point you are not going to be able to reduce that behavior. But that behavior might reduce for a little bit of time, but it will not be put on extinction because you have not targeted the right function of the behavior. Now, when you are targeting disruptive behavior directly, you are also going to have to look for side effects that make a big difference, because with the disruptive behavior gone, the intervention providers can focus their efforts on teaching other replacement behaviors rather than the actual behavior. Because when I see and I talk to parents and intervention people and I talk about reducing a maladaptive behavior, I always give them the example of a wall. And in that wall, when you take out a maladaptive behavior, it's just like you're taking a brick out of a wall, but then it leaves a hole over there. And that hole needs to be filled up with a replacement behavior. And if you don't fill that up with a replacement behavior, what's going to happen is that other maladaptive behaviors are going to take its place, which are going to be harder to put on on extinction or reduce those behaviors, right? So basically, when you're dealing with a maladaptive behavior, you have to look into the function of the behavior, the duration, the frequency of the behavior. Then you look into the competing contingencies. You look into what will reinforce the replacement behavior, and then you are giving attention to the replacement behavior, and the maladaptive behavior will go down if you target the a function of the behavior in the right manner. So again, it's a very scientific approach. If you do it in a scientific manner, you are going to be able to reduce it. So I do hope that my video, which I just talked about the functions of the behavior, made sense for you. If you have any questions, you can always ask me, send me a message. But always remember that these procedures, they have to be done scientifically. They have to be done by a person who knows what they are doing. Don't do them haphazardly. Have a wonderful day and stay safe.